Thank you, Ben, for that prepubescent sounding intro into episode 39 of the Cats and Bolts podcast. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I am Serena Taylor hosting today. We've got Rod Peterson up in the Great White North. He's going to be joining us in a little bit here to talk about what has been happening in this bizarre Stanley Cup final. I don't remember a Stanley Cup final like this one for a very long time, but there's been a lot of crazy stuff going on, and we are super excited to be doing this podcast. I really didn't think that this was going to be the way it was going to go today, and I was kind of dreading this specific episode, but here we are. So, Ben, let's bring on Rod, and we'll just get kind of hammering out what's been going on, get the feel for what's happening here, what's happening up there, and let's bring in Roddy. Let's see what's happening with him today. What's going on, Rod?
Hi, Serena. Did you want me to talk? It's like I'm on the surface of the moon here, and you and I have these issues every time I come to Canada and we try to talk to each other. I'm not sure if I'm going to be doing it much further, but here we are in Canada. This series continues to Game 6 on Friday night, and let's get real about this. We can sit here and be like the other networks and be real serious about it, but on Tuesday of this week, you were, I think, dreading Game 5 in Sunrise and dreading doing this show. For whatever reason, I shouldn't speak for you, but I believe the Panthers and their fans and a lot of staff and media all thought it was going to end Saturday night in Edmonton. Everybody flew up there to see the cup handed out, and just right there, I'm not going to say they jinxed it. What else are you going to do? I don't blame them, but we'll lose it, or so we lost it. It's okay. We'll come home and we'll win it on Tuesday. And tickets are going for $1,000 to $6,300, but at least we'll get to see it at home. And then, it was almost a carbon copy. Shorthanded goal for the Oilers started things midway through the first, 1-0 Edmonton. And in both games, it's crazy how the Oilers can dominate it. So we're going to get into this on this show here today, but it's just two completely different series, man. And I'm a Panthers supporter, follower, and pundit. I'm excited to see how, if the Panthers win the Stanley Cup, because it's not a given here, but if they do, I'm excited to see what it means for South Florida. But I'm a little angry because they took their foot off the gas. This series should be over.
I think that
now they could lose it.
I think that, though, here's the thing. I'm not necessarily certain they took their foot off the gas. I said this at the start of this series. The Oilers are going to determine how these games go. And the first game, Edmonton outplayed them. And that was obvious. And the Panthers have been outplayed in the first period of the majority of the playoff games that they've played all year. And they've, kind of come back to win in the third period or whatever it happened to be. But you're seeing the real Edmonton Oilers now. And I think a lot of Panthers fans talking about what you were saying about how they thought they were going to, of course they thought they were going to sweep. They got cocky. They thought they were going to walk all over the Oilers. They played teams in the playoffs like Tampa, Boston, the Rangers. None of them played up to their full potential. And the first 3 games of this series, the Oilers didn't really play up to their full potential. Yes, Edmonton outplayed them in the first game, but they still didn't win. It doesn't matter. And so the things that I'm seeing now, the true Oilers are coming out, and I don't think the Panthers underestimated them. That's not it at all. This is a professional hockey club run by an incredible coach in Paul Maurice. He's not going to sit back and think that the best hockey player in the world is going to roll over and let his team get swept. But this is just the Oilers that I knew that could play. And when we look at Panthers fans, like I said on the last show, Panthers fans don't watch Oilers games. How would they know? They wouldn't know. They just thought they were dominating like they were everything else. And all of a sudden, Edmonton came out to play. And it's been an interesting couple of games.
Yeah, and I appreciate all the media outlets that have asked for yours and my opinion separately. We've both been doing our different interviews, but I was on the radio in Calgary the morning after Game 5, and they asked for everything that you are talking about here right now, Serena. And I'll just say this about McDavid. Going into the series, that same Calgary radio station said to me, "How do you stop Connor McDavid?" And I said, also quoted Aaron Ekblad, you don't stop him, but you hope to contain him. And in the first 3 games of this series, he was a combined -3 and had 2 points. And I don't agree with your contention that the Oilers are going to decide how this series goes. Bob decided how Game 1 went. It was a shutout. I think a 32 save shutout. So, but that's just my point. Just because we don't agree doesn't mean we can't get along. Bob determined how that game went. So McDavid had 2 points and was -3 in the first 3 games. So that's why I think the Panthers let their foot off the gas. And in game 5, it's interesting because Paul Maurice, after the game in the news conference, said that he was grumpy, he himself, but he felt that they'd played a good game in game 5. And I looked, if you want to go by stats, they outshot Edmonton 32-24 in game 5. They outhit them 44-16, and they won 60% of the faceoffs. So why didn't they win? Because they only had the momentum for about 5 minutes in the game. So it's been just the coin flip. One series, the first 3 games, another series, the next 2. And now you said this after the 8-1 Edmonton win in game 4 that the Oilers have woken up. That didn't change in game 5. McDavid's now got 8 points. And listen, Serena, we're going to get into this in this show. Like, I think this locomotive that are the Oilers, I don't know that it can be stopped. I think the window for the Panthers potentially is closed because in Canada, everybody's saying the series is over. Going into game 5, people were saying if Edmonton wins game 5, the series is over. They'll have all the momentum. I think the Panthers are very fortunate that there's 2 days off between games. They can reset mentally and get up there Friday night and be the Florida Panthers that they've been all year. Be bullies, be physical, be all those things. But that's why I get so annoyed at the people that bring up 5-on-5 play, blah, 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 blah. That doesn't mean anything. The Oilers scored 2 power play goals, and the Panthers allowed a shorty in game 5. Special teams decided it, so would you shut up with the 5-on-5? And Bob, I don't expect is going to allow 3 or more goals again. I don't. If they go back to being who they are, they will win on Friday night. But now the Oilers, to use your term, they're awake, and it's not just 97. It looks like it, but it's not.
Well, I think where there's a lot of things that kind of happened that the very first game at the second intermission, and I don't typically agree with what PK Subban has to say very often, but he had a valid actual hockey point instead of being a punk. He said after the second period of the first game, what Florida really needs to be concerned about is the fact that there is an Edmonton Oiler between their defenseman and their goaltender on every single play. And that's what's happened the last few games. Edmonton is beating them to the puck. They're outskilling them. Their goaltender is playing better, and that's why they're winning. And everybody came into this series talking about the depth of the Panthers and their defense and whatever. Their power play has been atrocious. Their penalty kill is terrible right now. Now, I'm not saying that they're not going to turn around and win, but game for game, they have shown that their power play is not strong. Everybody was trying to compare it to the Oilers' power play. I was like, are you joking me? And then a shorthanded goal. 2 of them, 2 games in a row. The one last night from Connor Brown, it's like, this is what happens when you're on a power play. You run the risk of only putting 1 defenseman out. You put 4 forwards and a defenseman out, and Barkov was the guy that got caught because he's not a defenseman. That's a risk you take on the power play. That's the point. It just so happened to be that Barkov got caught on his heels and there was no way he was going to catch Connor Brown. Doesn't mean it makes him a bad player or makes them a bad team. Just those little things that the Oilers are doing right that the Panthers are not doing. The Oilers are outskilled. They're outskilling the Panthers. They're doing everything better, getting to the puck, getting between them and the goaltender. And when you have McDavid, making a play like an assist like he did last night, I could have scored that goal Corey Perry scored. McDavid's unbelievable.
Yeah. Well, you can't stop what he did. That you can't stop it. There ain't nobody that can stop that. And by the way, on the Barkov falling down thing, they've been running, to use a football term and a really techie hockey term, a 4-by-1 power play all year, 4 forwards and 1 defenseman. There's, as far as that goes, they're still doing what they do, but it doesn't explain yet to me. You and I haven't come up with, and neither team has either, how it was the first 3 games were one way and the last 2 have been another. Literally what changed? I don't know, other than maybe the hockey gods. I'm not sure. Now, a couple things. I have made some notes because what you're seeing there, although you do follow the Canadian networks on your social media, you're not watching the Canadian networks. So it's fun because the whole country's gripped in this. A lot of it has to do with the fact the Oilers are in the series, but a lot's being made of Bill Zito rifling his water bottle against the wall. It was brought up on Calgary radio with me today. It's on Sports Center. They're talking about it. And so here's the general manager losing his composure at a key time in Game 5, which doesn't mean anything, but I thought we were supposed to hold our composure here. So I just think waking up Wednesday, the Panthers, the sooner they can flush the last 2 games and look forward, the better off they'll be, and not deal and think about the frustration of what's happened the last 2 games. Because here's the headline. My phone's going off, notifications. Panthers face pressure for the first time in the playoffs. How will they respond? That's coming from Sportsnet and TSN. And I'm like, you know what? They're right. But you know what? They're still not facing elimination, Serena. Edmonton's faced elimination a lot. They did it in round 1 against Vancouver. They faced elimination last series, did they not? And the Panthers, they still haven't faced elimination. They haven't all series. So how much pressure is there on the Panthers? I mean, the Oilers have said they're proud of the way they come out when their backs are against the wall. Panthers really haven't had their backs against the wall yet. And they're still not facing elimination Friday night. So I'm wondering what team we're going to see at Rogers Place and how much the home ice and the fans will mean for the Oilers. Or does it mean anything at all?
Well, you and I know very well that home ice advantage in Edmonton definitely makes a big difference. But going back to the Bill Zito thing, people need to chill out with that. It's like he literally thought his team was going to win the Stanley Cup 5 days ago. And he's frustrated, right? He's frustrated that he's like, how did we shut down this team for 3 straight games? And now all of a sudden they're coming out. And I think it's just these 2 types of teams, the Oilers and the Panthers, are 2 different types of hockey teams. And when one of them is firing, the other one really can't be. Like Florida, I've said this all year, they're not an end-to-end team. They're not skilled enough to be an end-to-end type of team. Edmonton is an end-to-end team. So we saw some games through the Oilers in the playoffs that were end to end to end. And it's just the Panthers they don't play like that. So it's a completely different style. So they haven't really had anybody go end to end on them either. They haven't played, if the Rangers would have come out hot like the Rangers could have, that would have been a different series. But you're right, the Panthers haven't had their backs against the wall. And I think that's where, I could be wrong, but that's where there might be a little bit of pressure now because they're going, wait a second. This is the first, I guess, type of adversity we've had to face because we're in shock that this whole thing's happened. And Oilers fans are going, we knew this could happen. We knew we had this type of team. Where has this been? Like, there's a reason that the Oilers were the top 4 scorers in the playoffs. And Matthew Tkachuk was 5th, and it wasn't even close. The Oilers are powerful up front, and they got shut down in the first few games. And now it's opening up again, and this is what's happening.
Yeah. So the question is, does the series, can it change on the dime like it did once, or is the momentum too strong for Edmonton right now? I mean, nobody knows the answer to that, but here's another funny one. You and I both get a real bang out of Craig Button, the former Dallas Stars assistant GM. And he's like, okay, number one, when the Panthers lost 8-1 in Game 4, Craig Button's a TSN analyst now and very popular, but very verbose. And he goes, I don't think this has put any doubt at all in the Panthers' minds how this series might end up. And I was like, how could it not? How could it not? You just got throttled in a game where you could have eliminated them. And then with this Game 5 loss, Button goes, well, maybe there's a little doubt creeping into their mind. I'm like, yeah, there should be. They shouldn't be taking anything for granted at this point. But the one main thing, and I told you this on the phone the other day, is he ripped Matthew Tkachuk for not showing up in this series. He goes, he isn't anywhere near the capability of what he can do. Now, he scored in Game 5, and he made, I guarantee, the day of the game saying, we're going to go out and accomplish the thing that's all of our dreams tonight, which sounds kind of hollow now, doesn't it? So, again, this is what they're saying up here. Where's Tkachuk been? Where's Reinhart been? Where have these names been? And on the flip side, where's Draisaitl been? That came up to me on the radio in Calgary this morning. And I said, well, we're watching the games. You can see him on the ice. It's not like you got to check and see if he played. He's out there. They haven't been overly high scoring games. Certainly the first three haven't. But I guess my point is, Serena, the best players haven't necessarily been the best players on either side, not consistently over 5 games. And I wonder if that will change.
That's a really interesting concept. I mean, you look at Connor McDavid as being Connor McDavid. Leon Draisaitl is not pulling his weight. That's just a fact. And I know Oiler fans are frustrated with that. However, he's a good teammate for the players around him. And there's big things going. The Oilers are getting scoring from their bottom, let's say 9, right? That they wouldn't maybe have expected, at least 6. And, as far as the Panthers are concerned, I was the one that said in the regular season, Sam Reinhart is not an all-star. He's not a star in this league. Just because he had more than 50 goals, he's a 50-goal scorer, it doesn't make him a star. So you can't just expect guys like that to pull it out of their ass in the playoffs. And as far as Tkachuk is concerned, people want to know where he's been all playoffs. The thing is this, everybody gives him a lot of credit, and we know how I feel about him, but I will be fair here. His game is completely different because they took out all the stick to the face bullshit that we've seen in the regular season and the other series. I guarantee Paul Maurice had a talk with these guys and said, if you stick Edmonton, they're not going to bite. They didn't play a series like that against Dallas. They're not going to bite, and you're going to get a penalty. And yes, there have been some terrible penalties called, but Tkachuk's game has changed. So he's not quite as effective. I've never thought Matthew Tkachuk was a goal scorer, so I don't know what people want out of him. It's like that play he made last night was incredible. It was absolutely incredible. I'll give him all the credit in the world. He hustled back like his life depended on it. Was probably flashing through his mind was, I just made a guarantee we were going to win. I better get my ass back there and do something. But it's like, I just feel like people expect a lot out of these guys when they're not proven playoff performers. So I don't know what people want.
They want, we're paying you $8.5 million a year. So when we're in the Stanley Cup final, can you hit the score sheet before game 5? That's what I think. And I think the same. These are big dollars, and they're supposed to be your best players. That's what I think they're thinking. I think that's what Craig Button's saying, but we also know Craig, so we also kind of get a kick out of it. But the point is, again, we look at it differently. You want the Oilers to win the Stanley Cup. If the Oilers win the Stanley Cup, I won't hate it. I mean, I love their fans. I'm married to one, and I was one as a kid. If the Panthers win, I'm happy too. But I can sit here honestly right now and say I have zero idea who's going to win this series. And by the way, the Draisaitl on Barkov hit, the elbow to the chops, now I look in game 2, seems like 6 weeks ago. Like the time off in between games in this series and stuff is a topic for another time. And as I've told you many times, the NHL can look at that bottom line and say, hey, we made $6.2 billion this year, so we'll do whatever we want. We're good. I'm sitting here going, the time off between games for travel purposes, it's been great, but this is even in Canada, Serena, people are saying, when is this going to end? Like, people are ready for summer. It's dragged out too long in my mind.
Well, here's the thing. This is what's different about the Edmonton Oilers and hockey fans in Canada. Everyone's life is on hold as an Oilers fan or a Canadian waiting for this series to be over. I'm like, I can't do anything. I can't even control my stress right now. Whereas here, it's not like that. If you didn't know that this was going on, it's like now, I see people like they go to the game or whatever and they're posting it on Facebook, right? But other than that, you wouldn't know. People's lives and their sanity is on the line here. That's the difference. That's why everybody's like, when is this going to be over? Here, you wouldn't even know it was happening. So, I mean, I hear loud and clear what you're saying. And like going back to like the players making so much money or whatever. Yes, but again, they're not proven playoff performers. So you have a team like the Panthers that are not like a ton of high point getters. They're not like Barkov, for example. He's going to be on every play. He's going to be doing great. He's had an unbelievable playoffs. That's probably the best hockey I've ever seen Barkov play, is the first 3 rounds and the first couple games of the play. I mean, the guy is just good, but he's not McDavid. So when you win the Selke, and you're a defensive player and you make plays as well, like Barkov can put the puck on anybody's stick. His game has kind of been taken out the past 2 games, and I think that's a bit of a difference as well.
Well, yeah, but on the topic of are they playoff performers or are they not? They're not until they are. And this is kind of what's annoying me because, I mean, we've been in Florida all winter and everybody's been kissing the Panthers' butts for good reason. But I'm like, guys, now is not the time to crap the bed, which I also have a note, like, they're on the cusp of being South Florida legends, like the 72 Dolphins and the 2 Marlins Super Bowl champions and all that. You win a Stanley Cup, you can put your feet up forever. And now they're on the verge of, if they blow this, which I don't know about you, but I've seen that from people that I thought would never give up on the Panthers, are saying, oh, they're gonna blow this. We're the Bills. I'm like, that's what they're facing, Serena. They have to win this. That's why I'm getting a little angry. And as you say, that's why Zito was so mad. But I wrote down this about the Florida fans that I've talked to. I won't name them, or maybe I will because they watch this show. Thad, Brent, Chris Sanford is a Rangers fan, but he watches. There's shock, there's anger, there's worry because they thought they were going to win the cup the last 2 games. And now they're shocked. And that's, man, I never saw this coming. So, I mean, there's no point in me being mad. I don't have a dog in the race or any skin in the game, but holy smokes. Dude, let's just say it. What is this going to mean to the Panthers if they blow this?
Let's not get ahead of ourselves here. And let's be honest. Any team in the, you know how superstitious I am. Any team in the Panthers position would be feeling the same way. They're up 3-0. They haven't faced adversity in the playoffs. There's been none of that. And then they go into Edmonton and get their asses absolutely handed to them. It wasn't close. It was an 8-1. I don't remember the last time there was an 8-1 game in the Stanley Cup Finals. And it's like that. It was very eye-opening, number one, losing that 4th game in Edmonton, but also getting pounded like that. Now, if Edmonton wins the game 3 and not game 4, this is a different conversation. So they need to regroup, both teams, and go, this is a 3-2 series. Who cares how we got here? This is a 3-2 series. And, you know, and I guarantee that that's what's happening. You know, these coaches are just, but these 2 coaches are 2 coaches that are just incredible. They are doing incredible things that the average person does not see. The majority of the Panthers fans don't go to the game and go, oh, he switched up the lines. They have no idea. But you can see what both Knobloch and Paul Maurice are doing in switching up their lines at the right times when it makes sense. And Knobloch has the ability to make Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid more effective when he puts them together when they don't typically play together. He has that weapon that Paul Maurice doesn't have. If he can put Barkov and Verhaeghe, if they're out there together, sometimes the magic happens. And, you know, but he's been moving his lines around like both coaches have in the playoffs, in the finals rather. You don't see that very often, but these coaches are confident in their players and what they're doing. And I think the coaches are doing everything in their power. I don't see a weak spot in either coach, to be honest. I don't even know where the hell that all came from, but that's how I feel about it.
Well, it's, you know, I do that daily television show, the Rod Peterson show. We had Alan May on last week, and he talked about the time off in between games, how much time it's given coaches to make adjustments in this series. And whereas back in the day, you remember when you were a little girl and I was a little boy, they would play 2 games and 2 nights in one venue, travel 2 games and 2 nights in the other, and then keep going back and forth to games 5, 6, and 7. There was no time to recover and make adjustments and all that. And now there's all this time. So what's going on in these games is in a lot of ways a direct result of the coaching of what you're talking about, whether it's on the ice with systems or the line matchups and all the rest. But I know we won't take much more time here. I can't actually believe how emotionally invested I'm getting in this series because I'm nowhere near like this with you, or like you are. And dealing with you has been no picnic the last few days, especially when you thought your team was going to be out. But what do you think about this? if you were the Panthers, I would tell all those families and staff to stay home for game 6. Maybe that's the difference in a Canadian mentality versus American, and people don't get mad at me. But we won a championship in 2013 in the Canadian Football League, and our star quarterback told his family to stay home in North Carolina. Darian, stay home. I don't need the distraction. We won, and on the field afterwards, he dropped to his knees and cried because he didn't have his family around him. But what's the most important thing? I would whittle it down to my regular season road traveling group, the trainers, the staff, the PR people, whatever, nobody extra, and go up there and win. That's what I would do. I don't know if that's even possible. Is that as crazy as it sounds coming out of my mouth or not? I would still do it.
I think that's looking back to going up to games 3 and 4 when the plane was delayed by like 4 hours because of the rain here and all that kind of stuff. And at first I was like, why didn't they go yesterday? And then I was like, oh, because they're flying into enemy territory where there's a lot of pressure there. Like Matthew Tkachuk played in Calgary, so he played in Edmonton a lot. He knows what it's like, but it pales in comparison to what's going on there right now. So I understand why they're going when they're going. They have that extra day. But, like if you're as emotionally invested as, imagine it's about 8% of what I am. And I was thinking about this today, like in the last 18 years ago when my team was in the Stanley Cup final, I didn't eat, I didn't sleep for 2 weeks straight. I was a ball of stress, and I wasn't the only one. There's millions of Oilers fans who have the same passion as me. And in those 18 years, I have moved around the world multiple times. I have started different jobs. I have opened different businesses. I've started my own business. I've had to put my dog down. I've been divorced. And none of those fuckers compare to the stress of being your team, my team, being in the Stanley Cup final. And I'm not even kidding when I say that. It is unbearable every single day that I have to live with myself. And that's why I get frustrated, because people here are not like that. They don't get it. We're not the same. We're not. And listen, Panthers fans want to win. I don't blame them. They want to win. Everybody wants to win. Everybody wants to be the best team. But the Oilers fans want to win the Stanley Cup. The Stanley Cup is what we live and die by. Hockey is what we live and die by. And so if you're going to take a team of people up there, a team of players, you don't take them 2 days in advance. It's overwhelming. Like Rod, you and I were talking about it yesterday, and you're like, I guarantee these guys are watching this on TSN. I'm like, I bet the TV's not even on, because the pressure in a Canadian market, I wouldn't even be anywhere near social media or with the TV on in that country if I was the Florida Panthers.
Right, but I've also traveled with teams, both professional and junior and college, for 30 years, and I know what they do. Yeah. And secondly, I know how big a Oiler fan you are, but the outcome of a sports team ain't gonna affect my mood unless I was working for them or was getting a paycheck from them. But that's like me. I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan. They lose every year in the playoffs. You're with me. I'm like, I'm not even surprised, but that's just, not everybody's wired the same. That's about all I had, and we covered a lot here. Anything else from you?
I don't think so, but it's been my team since I came out of the womb. I haven't jumped ship. I haven't bailed. And a couple times I wanted to, but I didn't. But I think that what you said about the Panthers fans and the Oilers fans respecting each other, 100%. I saw a Panthers fan went to Edmonton for game 4. I don't know him. He just posted on social media. And he was like, he put some pictures and he just said the kindest things. And it's like he spent his hard-earned money. Tickets are expensive in Edmonton, to go watch his team get their ass kicked 8-1. And all he could talk about was what a great event it was, the energy in there, how good the fans were to him. And he's like, any Oilers fans that want to come to Florida, you're more than welcome. That is what's really important. That is what it's really about. And the Panthers fans have been so gracious to the Oilers fans that have come here. And everyone here, the first games 3 and 4 were like, oh my God, there's so many Oilers jerseys here. And you can tell them all because they like have an Oilers jersey and a sunburn. And it's like, yeah, but Oilers fans will pay the money. Think about what they lose in exchange, and they get a sunburn out of it. So next week we'll know. And here we are. But thanks for jumping in, Rod. Appreciate that.
Thank you. It's been fun. And I want to say the kudos too, because I talked to some of the Panthers. I said, don't wear your team gear out around downtown Edmonton. You'll get your ass kicked. They did it anyways. And they said that people were awesome to them. So bravo, Edmonton. And I'm sure that the Florida fans were the same in Fort Lauderdale around the Oilers. So, hey, enjoy the hockey, everybody. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks so much, Rod. All right, that's it for episode number 39. We are signing off. You guys enjoy the rest of the playoffs, and we'll have some fun chat maybe next week about what's going on in the summer as we head into yet another year. Have a great week, guys. See you soon.